not too toasty on the face, right? We were joking before we got on. I am the detailer that did not wear sunscreen, hats, or anything back when I would spend 10 to 12 hours out in the Oklahoma sun. And so I have to fully cover. I go to the beach, right? I'm that weird old guy that's got clothes all over himself and hooked up. But listen, if anybody is old enough, let's go back. And if not, you got to go Google these. You got to go back and listen to them. This was Bud Light. You remember I sent you and Mildred this because I was saying, if anybody's been in an airplane and you're getting delayed and you go sit on a tarmac for even a couple more hours, we can all understand, right? Your emotions, you're already some asshole playing his baseball game. So here's to you. And if we go back to those commercials, I sent you one, the no cell phone holder wear, right? And they go through and they make these jokes about, you who don't listen to games and you want everybody to hear it. You don't understand, you're on the tarmac and oh man, it was brutal. But here's to you. Oh, Mr. Don't wear headphones on an airplane and want everybody to listen to your baseball scores. Like,
did anybody say anything to him?
Good trip, though. You had a good week, yeah?
Yeah, did anybody say anything to him?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, there was like a couple ladies that joked. I turned on those commercials after I sent it to you, and I was like trying to hold it so they could see it at the same time. I was dying laughing. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But so
we had a good week. I mean,
you had a good week.
We did great. I went down to Phoenix. You guys will be seeing some content around the LX. For those of you watching and listening to Clutch Culture, you kind of heard us talk about it with the episode that dropped today. Man, it was a lot of fun. It's always great working with professionals. I mean, you and I both know that this is, one of the things we all say here at Pints and Polishing is that to be a professional, to be a specialist, to be the expert in your area. And we got to work with one of those in the audio space, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And when you meet somebody, like you said, is a professional from the other side, right? Not exactly the same thing that we do inside of the auto industry. And just to meet somebody else that, is working alongside trying to create almost the same, in a sense, quality and things for their customers, but just different side of the industry. It's always great. I think the ultimate for me, the here's to you from the overall trip. If any of you can remember, I got sent a picture. I was supposed to bring some of our new compound down to help her remove. She got tagged by a motorbike, right? The third world countries, everybody's on motorbikes. There's more motorbikes than there are cars, and it's a blast. It's wild. Well, one goes flying through and bings her on the side, and there was some of that transfer over. I forgot my stuff. I forgot our stuff. So here's to you, the guy at the hotel that goes, hey, I can take care of that for you.
Oh, yeah? That'll buff out. I can get that buff for you.
What do you think those
hey, look, always a hustle.
Mirrors,
there's always a hustle.
Those black side mirrors the next day when I looked at them, do you think they were black? Or do you think they were now white from the amount of stuff he had put all over that car?
Yeah, just went ahead and buzzed over and ripped the paint off some areas and sprayed some splatter everywhere. Yeah, I've seen that move.
It was great. He got everything off, but so that is a question though, right? We have talked about it already with our abrasives, and you've got a bunch of messages last week. You're going to keep getting more messages about abrasives of whether it's, hey, what pad do I use here? Your favorite new question. But so one of the things was, hey, how do you get something like this off of a car, right? If you've seen somebody that tried to use something and they got it all over the black of the, right? Or we already saw a post, I think, inside of the group about, seeing some compound inside of cracks or something like that, right? I think the first thing you got to do, what I did, my move, you share my move was, I don't want that to bake in the sun. We were about to take the car, go to a different beach. It was going to sit out in the sun all day long. And I go, hold on. First off, we got to pause. Just give me some water. Give me some soap. I got to do something to get this off the black molding. I don't know what he used. Yep. I don't know what it was, but your boy got it off. Whew.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you catch stuff, right now in our lineup, if you get stuff on trim, you go get trim cleaner. It's just going to make your life easy. Spray it down, move on with your life. I mean, that's really design of that product is something directly formulated. Go clean up the trim, clean up the area, spray a little bit in that crack and that crevice that you see that's right next to the trim and the paint. It's going to work phenomenal. But again, this all comes down to number one, this guy may have used the right product and the wrong technique, right? I mean, that's probably kind of what happened here is, look, if it's any kind of polish or anything like that, he didn't use the wrong thing. If it's something with an abrasive in it and it's somewhat, available widely, he's not going to use the wrong product. He's used the wrong technique. And you're exactly right. I mean, launching our compounds and our polishes has brought some things to the surface, some struggles in the marketplace, some guys, I'm going to say it again and again and again. There's a lot of people that should be getting a test panel at the body shop. It's really going to save you a lot of headache to just buy some pads and buy our system. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. But at some point, like you said, my move was always, soap, water, APC, degreaser, something to get in there and get it cleaned up. If that didn't work, look, man, you're getting into where you'd have to like wet down a towel with some type of solvent to break that stuff down. And, you got worried because it's like, man, if the solvent sits on there too long or, it's the wrong type of solvent. But again, it kind of comes down to when I hear this stuff is that we all make that mistake. We get compound or polish somewhere we shouldn't have got it. It's getting it quickly like you did. And it's like, hey, don't let it bake in the sun. But one of the things is its technique. And so many people seem to be shying away from testing and trying and doing the legwork of just fooling around with a polisher on something that doesn't matter. I think that's, something we should probably talk about.
So when you say, hey, go get a test panel, then now you mentioned like fooling around. I probably should spend, just the same as you would practice if you were on a team, right? You're going to go to
Sure.
practice. You're going to go to trainings. You're going to do more than just go play the game with the team or an individual sport, whatever you're trying. You're always going to put in practice into a technique. Getting and it'd be great to get more than one type of panel, right? Because you got different, some are fiberglass, right?
Sure.
Some are different types of metal.
Yeah.
You got what different types? How many different?
Well, really right now you got like, fiberglass, aluminum body, steel. You got plastic pieces, bumper pieces, you got all kinds of stuff like that. You got carbon fiber. If you've never dealt with it, I'm not sure that's always widely available, but you could go to your local body shop and see if they have something. But, more than anything, I look at the test panel as, and again, go to a family member that maybe isn't totally in love with their car. They're not a car person. They'd let you try some things. But I got a lot of questions, and I'm always thankful for getting questions. But some of the questions, I want everybody to understand is not always something that can be answered. I don't know what you're staring at, what you're looking at. If you go look at our new YouTube video that dropped today on an S580, right out of the box, you would think, I'm going to go grab a one step and I'm going to get the exact result I want to get. Well, when I used the one step and I used a pad and a couple pads, I'm like, you know what? I need a little more bite. So I went to a few dots of compound, a few dots of polish so I can control how aggressive in the finish. And I put it on a blue pad and I got way better results. So in our system, the system has the same abrasive, package inside of it. So you can mix and match it and get different results with different products. A couple drops of compound, couple drops of polish. Maybe you want 2 drops of compound, 3 drops of polish. Maybe the one step is the perfect. Like I told everybody on the video, 95% of the time, Velo is going to do exactly what you need. But I had extremely hard clear coat that I needed extra cut on, but I also had to add the finish because I didn't want to go back around the car a second time, because I didn't have the time with it. So I had to make a call. And these are all things you can fool around with that allow you to get the result that you want. But that's hard to do if you got 15 different compounds and 15 different polishes and you don't have pads you like, or you haven't tested pads that you're learning. I think that's what's kind of that's what I've kind of seen with a lot of the questions that we get. And like I said, I appreciate them because it just makes us better at what we do. But I also kind of look at it and go, man, you don't have a baseline to really be working off here.
So you think most people just grab any pad, for any car? Like they just have one. I know we used to have the one pad, right? So I don't mean that. But they just have their go-to pad that they use on every car. And then there's probably the next level up of guys who probably more keep a catalog of, hey, I need to use this pad for this type of paint. I know that this,
Yeah, that's a
whether
good
it's a
that's a good
Jaguar, a
question.
Honda, or whatever, I know there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that keep logs in a sense of what they want to use for those styles of cars because they know that clear coat's soft or that clear coat's hard. I can work this one a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Mercedes paint's usually been pretty friendly to me. I get an S580 and I go, damn, this is pretty hard clear coat. I mean, this is like really hard black, which is pretty rare for me. I don't run into like uncorrectable black paint with just a simple one step, to my liking. So I needed some bite. I think probably more than people that keep a lot of pads, I see more than anybody. I see the fact that I don't think guys have enough pads, even of the pads that they use. I see a lot of people trying to skimp on the amount of pads they have by the things they've, texted me or DM'd me. I'm not making this judgment of people that didn't reach out. There's the guys with just too few pads. If you have a lineup of pads you like, and you don't have 10 of the pad you like, then I think you're starting off in a really tough spot because I think a lot
Yeah,
of
most
people are
people
getting.
keep maybe one backup, maybe.
Yeah, and again, I understand getting our start, or you're doing it in your driveway, or you're just starting out professionally. But to buy 10 pads that you like and that have been put to the test, so you can rotate them on a car. I mean, what's that? $150? I mean, it's not $1,500. It's $150, something like that. I mean, pads are somewhere around there, somewhere around $15, $12, something like that. It's not a huge expense, and I think the life of the pad that you get when you use 10 pads on a car instead of one or two pads that you're constantly blowing out or you're pad washing. I can get pads to last years. I mean, you've had pads that have lasted you a year or more working every day because you didn't burn it out. I just think we're getting into this, and I see a lot of like weird stuff of, after I do a panel, I'm going to go wash or blow out my pad, and I go, I don't know, man. Like that heat cycling is so bad for the glue. It's so bad for the foam, for the microfiber, for the wool. It really is like at some point you got to pay to play the game, and that's one thing that I would definitely say that I saw when we released all this.
I have no problem saying I don't regularly polish and regularly, cut down paint, right? It's not a weekly activity for me anymore. I didn't know people were teaching that you blow out a pad every panel.
Oh, I know people teaching, I mean, from what guys have showed me in videos I've seen where, you get done with your 4 or 5 section passes and you blow the pad out. I mean, it's not even the whole panel. Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm not like going at, in theory, that stuff is understandable to say this is an option to do, right? The problem is the amount of time it slows you down. And again, we're not talking about the constant cooling down and heating up this pad, whether it be wool, whether it be microfiber, foam, a medium foam, a soft foam. The glue that you and I have talked about is not only the foam, not only the actual cutting part of the pad, it's that glue with the backing that you go, that constant heat cycling is going to cause you, that pad's going to fail prematurely. And you don't want that to fail when you're on the panel, which can happen. I've seen pads just rip in half because guys have used them for so long. You've remembered seeing stuff like that where a pad's almost sheared itself off in the middle of the foam, and you go, God damn, what is going on down here? And what's going on is we're trying to stretch something too far. We're trying to advocate that, blowing out the pad we'll just get the residue out of there. Well, it's not just the residue. And by the way, that doesn't get all the residue out anyway. It's not just residue control. It's not just that. It's you're heat cycling this pad in a way. You're diminishing the life of the pad for no reason. Where when you buy 10 of them, if you keep those pads clean and well maintained, you might have those 10 pads for a year working with them every day. Like it may not, it could be that simple because you only do a hood and then you put it away. Then you do a fender and a quarter of a door and you throw it away, meaning like throw it to the side, not throw it away actually. And then all of a sudden you rinse them out, you get the stuff out of there, you dry it out, you call it a day. So yeah, I mean, that was a lot of new stuff for me, hearing from people. And I think people just don't understand that heat cycling of pads just destroys them.
Yeah. Good call. Now we're always going to ask the question because we'll see it, and so we'll just always keep doing it too. Can I use this on this? Right, just general question. I felt for this guy seen in a post because before I left, literally on the way to the airport, sitting at a stoplight, they had road paint crew, middle of the day, road paint crew at an intersection.
You know where that's headed.
And I'm just like, oh, gosh. Oh.
Yep. There's going to be a lot of solvent used on someone's car here coming up.
Fortunately, not mine. I was holding my breath just in the right angle, I guess. But I saw this post where the guy he said, listen, he needs help. He says, okay, I need your help, right? He's adamant now because he says he wants to know, is there a foolproof method? I know this is very specific paint for highways and has extreme adhesion, but they have a customer with road paint on their car. Now, can we? This is kind of that question, right? Because I know people say it. Can I go put some level on a pad and go buzz off road paint from? Can it be done?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the solvent world. Citral 266, if you can still find it. Paint thinner, that kind of thing. Mineral spirits, if that works. But you'd probably be in more of a thinner type of lacquer thinner type of thing. It's just tough to deal with. We've all dealt with this. I mean, in some cases, you might be like with a plastic razor blade and a solvent. Maybe you can get lucky, get the clay to pick some of it up. Maybe some of the stuff that's really not completely embedded and, is just kind of on the top of the surface. I mean, look, that's grimy work. I mean, you and I both know it. You're trying to help a customer out. Maybe you got it on your own car. You really are into, some type of solvent to get these things handled. And that's just the way that it is. I mean, you're not gonna ever get away from that, in my opinion. Now, if you get to the end of the road and you say, hey, I'm going to try a rotary and some compound and a wool pad and see if I can't buzz this off. I mean, it's worth a shot, but most of the time when you're dealing with a paint, you want to get it off with some type of solvent.
So, like I said, back in the day, I didn't cover up. All right, road paint's a tough thing. We definitely all take our hold our breaths. We say our graces. We're thankful if we can get it off. One other question we're going to start seeing, though, and I like this question, and it was somebody, and it's something we talked about before, but we'll see it inside of the abrasives, right? And there's just somebody asking how to get minor sanding scuffs out of glass, right? This could be whether it's the front windshield and you see that brow. A lot of people have it on the back, right? Back glass of an SUV. They never change those wipers, ever, right? They might change the front wipers. And if you get your wipers off Amazon, a lot of them now send you the back wiper. They've learned. But so many people don't change that back wiper, and you see a lot of that scratching of the wiper blade. Will we be able to get that out with our abrasives?
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Glass has always been a thing that's pretty limited, and it's all dependent on how much work you want to put in. And there comes a point in time where there's a law of diminishing returns, because you have some states that you get a free windshield. You just, call up your insurance, say my windshield's damaged, and they come out and insurance has to cover your windshield, or you have to pay a small fee or small deductible. So look, I've never been one to, I've done the whole, cerium oxide or whatever it's called, and I've done all of that. And I'm not going to push it. I'm going to get a cutting pad and level, and I'm going to give it a run, and I'm going to be as aggressive as I can. But you've been around a long time. You worked in recon type worlds at the dealership or with a wholesaler. I got news for you, man. It's a lot of time to get real scratches out. You can obviously get light stuff out. You can get light imperfections out of a windshield, out of a piece of glass. But you start talking about that back glass or your front glass when somebody takes and has no wiper and they take that metal and it scrapes all across the front. It's largely something where I go, give it a whirl. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, replace it. Don't sit there for 2 and 3 hours. I don't think that's worth your time.
No, and it's not like, you teach with ceramic coatings, putting our glass ceramic coating on a windshield, lay it on heavy, right? Put on plenty of coating. It doesn't really go that way for polishing glass, though, right? It's not like
No.
you just load up more compound and it's going to take your better job.
Yeah, no. I mean, glass is a tough surface, man. I mean, there's some machines that glass companies sell that are doing a better job, but I mean, none of us, just in the detail world, are really going to invest in those. And you just kind of move on with your life. And something gets damaged, it's in a replacement mode.
So some of the fun posts that we've been seeing outside the special or inside of the specialist group, apologize, is the photos of cars. It's what we're always going to talk about. Now, I had one that I didn't post, but this is a Pajero TR4. I don't know, right?
Peugeot,
Yo.
yeah,
Oh, so you know it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was an instrument. It says the car, the legend. Now, for those of you that don't know it, this is a Mitsubishi. Not
It's nice.
sure if the
I like them.
Mitsubishi's a true legend, right?
I like them.
Yeah, but they're fun cars. Mildred posted, we've always got some great posts happening inside the specialist group. Here was one that from Ryan. There's some Jeep fenders. Now, you specifically talked, and we'll talk on almost nausea now, of going to the YouTube channel. And you mentioned it there. I actually, when I was down there visiting relatives, I sent you photos. Listen, you can watch it in Portuguese.
Oh
Nick,
yeah,
in Portuguese, now
that's what I'm talking
that's a
about.
riot, you know? But I was showing him because he's trying to work on some stuff and showing him videos where you were walking him through basically how to do things. Now, the Jeep fenders, they are bad. And
Yes.
you said inside the post, I mean, go watch the videos. It
Yep.
is they are you do some great videos how to, and you walk people through exactly the steps.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, it's not always, for us, it's not always about getting the view. It's about explaining to people how to use the things that we have on the market, right? So I don't want people who run into a Jeep or a Bronco or something with a lot of plastic, the old school Avalanche, where you look around and you go, what do I do here? I think, we've said this a lot. We're going to continue to say it. You see completely white, like on the Jeep that Ryan posted. You see that white, that grayish white or full out white like he had on some of those fenders. You go lay ceramic on that, it's going to look good for a very short period of time, and then you're not going to be able to fix them. Go ahead and re-dye those trims like we showed. We don't sell the dye, but it's the right thing to do. Okay, dye the trim, let it set up, and then come back and lay some ceramic over it, and you'll have years of protection. I've been doing that process for a very long time. That's not new. We didn't invent it, but that is the right way to restore these incredibly damaged trims. Now, if you have a new trim or not very old trim or the trim's not in bad shape, man, lay our ceramic down and move on with your life. That's a great option. We are talking about heavily damaged trim and the way that you need to do it to give peace of mind to yourself or the customer and actually protect it for the long term. And guys, before you really have to go ask a lot of questions, I guarantee if you search our YouTube, you're going to find some things that'll help you with the situation you're in.
Yeah, definitely go over to the YouTube channel, guys. It's really great. Nick does a wonderful job explaining everything. Okay, so we've got a post, and I had to laugh because William said he did 2 Spartas and he's ready for a cruise.
I hear you.
Now, I wasn't sure if he meant he made so much money off of Sparta, he can now go on a cruise or what.
Or he's waiting for us to throw a cruise.
Or, has somebody who's been doing uno, dos, right? Stack, right? And it is very entry level. And then stepping up into Sparta, maybe he was like, hey, that was much more of an intensive moment. we do have to talk. Sometimes we kind of skim over, Sparta, because it is more of that, need to get approved. You talk people through it. Something we haven't talked about in a while. How does somebody, if they want to get more of that long-term 5-year, how does somebody go and start working with Sparta?
Yeah, look, we have a Sparta page on our website. You put an application in, we'll reach out, we'll talk to you, we'll learn about your business. I always tell people when I get on a phone call with them, I'm happy to share it here as well. Sparta's also, does it fit where you are in your business? There are a lot of people that get a 5-year coating and they never sell them, right? They have them, it's been sitting on the shelf. And there's a logical way of going about this. If you're a guy getting your start, starting in that stack 1, 2, and 3 year, are you selling a decent amount of 3 years? And you're now starting to build the client base. So what we do in the Sparta program is try to learn a little bit about your business, learn about where you're at as a business, if it fits you. Obviously, there's some guys that are like, hey, man, I've been using this coating. I just want something because I use your 1 and 3 year. I want to use your 5-year now. I've been using this other one. It doesn't last. Those are very quick conversations. Those people know what they're getting into. But the best thing to do is just go to our website, go to the Sparta page and put an application in. Make sure you fill out the application we have there. Do a good job. Answer all the questions, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get on the phone and we'll have a nice discussion. And, we don't have too many people in our Sparta program that don't continually just keep ordering Sparta. That's the whole key. We're a business, you're a business. If you're not installing it, we're not selling it. Right. And so we want you to be successful and we want to make sure that we can support you any way we can. And our Sparta program and all the installers have done such a wonderful job. They take good videos and, post things on their Instagram and their website. And so it's just been a program that's more about building with the right people, having us behind you. And that conversation really is, pretty in depth to kind of get an understanding of where you're at and how we can help.
When people are talking to you and they're going through all this, what do you think they're most confused about?
I get probably the most about installation. I get most questions are about installation. And I think if I were going to tell people to go into that, it's how do I sell more would be the thing I would talk the most about. But that's what we see across the board in the detailing space is, you see it in the film space, you see it in the tint space, is that everybody is so big on how does this install and, how much heat rejection of tint and is the PPF adhesive strong or weak? And, what do I need my slip solution to be? I would tell everybody out there, the thing you should always be worried about is how do I sell more of it? Because that makes you more successful. I largely don't get that question very often.
Why do you think that is? People, they're more concerned about if they can perform it than if they can sell it. That's okay. So, we'll just stay on the airplanes, right? Because I was just on airplanes sitting in Houston, and they were making announcements for, I think it was Miami or one of these places where they had overbooked, right? They got all the way up to $2,400 in credit plus upgrades to everything. I mean, they were trying to do everything they could. And you just go, my wife was like, well, she didn't understand. I was like, well, they overbooked. They sold more tickets than they had seats. Well, how can you do that? Why would you do that? I think it's probably a question we should start asking more detailers, right? Like,
Yeah.
Are you jam packed? Is your plane full? Like, what are you doing to go push more customers? It's not so much will you be able to install the product. I would say, right, if you can install Trey, you can install Sparta, but some people have said there is a learning curve. There is a learning curve to the installation.
I'll tell anybody that's installed Trey, the jump from Trey to Sparta is literally just reducing your work area. That's it. Trey, let's say you can do half the door very comfortably, and that's where you're at because you've done so many installs, or maybe the whole door because you have a climate controlled, whatever it is, your space is that you can do with Trey during an install. You just cut it in half once you start working with Sparta. And you're not cutting it in half forever. You're cutting it in half to get comfortable. Right. So it's just like we would tell people about the abrasive and ask them what pad to use and, how many dots to use. And when you're trying something, you just reduce the size. You go to a little inconspicuous place on the back of the car to kind of see how it's going to react with the paint. I just think a lot of people get very enamored with the technical side of detailing, just like PPF installation, just like tint. They think that what makes them successful is knowing all of this technical stuff, and that's the most important. You and I, with a little more experience under our belt, go, well, you need to find out how to get 100 Sparta customers. That is actually the most important thing. To get 100 cars to tint in the next couple weeks, that's the most important. But all of us have that technical side where we just always want to, dive into the process of installing Sparta. It's very simple. If you install tray, reduce your size in half once you start applying it until you get comfortable, and then you'll figure it out from there. That's the basic advice I always give.
As ceramic coatings continue to go down the path that they go, not sure what that path is. We're just seeing it continue to go
Yep.
and kind of make its own path. I saw a 5 year somebody was marketing and they were selling the bottle for under $100. And it's just like, wow, like, okay. So I think there's some people that see that and they don't understand then why we have interviews, why we try and make things a little bit more secluded. And they'll even ask me the question, back when I would talk to people more about Sparta, they'd ask me, well, why are you guys, that's $300. I can get it for XYZ, right? They'd just name off some price. Like that will always continue to be one of the most interesting parts, with the Sparta program is people that go, well, I can buy something 5 years from somebody else.
Sure.
And, they're just whatever their excuse. And they just want to list
think,
off how, I can do something like this from so-and-so.
Yeah, I think you and I would say, and a lot of our, great installers out there would tell you, to put something on a car that lasts for real for 5 years, there's a lot of technology, a lot of raw material that's not so cheap that has to go into that bottle. There comes a point in time where you just have to kind of, and I think you and I have gotten to this place, and I think the people that listen to us understand this. At some point, logic has to come into it that stuff costs something, right? So to have a high quality coating, there's almost 0% chance it's ever going to be the cheapest one. The cheapest one is never going to be the highest quality. And just think about how detailers talk all the time. Cheap work isn't good work. Well, then how is cheap product good product? Those two things don't go together. And I'm not even thinking of any brand. I don't even know what brands, we're discussing. Like, I don't know who sells their 5 year for $100, but I can tell you, if you have this idea that I'm doing something professionally and cheap work isn't, good work, then cheap product isn't good product. I mean, that's the way you got to live your life. And again, your name is behind it. So I don't know why you'd want to sell a 5 year coating that you have to cross your fingers and hope it gets 18 months down the road and is still on there. Brian has come on these episodes and talked about that as well, as like he feels married to that car and that customer when he puts a Sparta on someone's car, a 5 year on someone's car. I feel the same way. You feel the same way. I mean, even when I PPF a car, if that company's telling me that's supposed to last 10 years, I feel responsible. Now, it's highly unlikely most customers are going to keep their car 10 years, but for whatever reason, if you're running a legitimate business, you should feel married to that customer and that car and that guarantee that everybody in your circle, i.e. your vendor, has given out to the world. This is supposed to last this long. Is it unreasonable? It's not unreasonable to think that way. That's the way you should be thinking. And if you don't take your vendors seriously, if you don't take the claims seriously, then, we're not the company for you. That's what it comes down to, because we do take it seriously when you put a 5 year coating on a car that it's actually going to last that 5 years.
All right. So I've got Sparta on my car and I'm going to regularly wash it. Is that, this is where other people are going to start choosing, which I would love to hear when people go into the group. And we've had more people go in and ask questions about, hey,
Sure.
What soap should I use for this? And, people will give their advice. I'm definitely a big, as I've said, the ceramic snow guy. Now we have had, which, I want to say publicly, we've had some people ask us about ceramic snow. And I want to say, listen, which we talked about it before, it's very difficult to get foam and large amounts of protection on the car at the same time. One
Yep.
thing you'll notice about ceramic snow, it's not a high beading protection. It's much, much more of a sheeting, right?
Yep.
So once you wash the car, and if you don't have protection, any protection on the car, you might have to wash it a couple times to get it to really get that full sheet off. But you come back and dry with slick, you can just keep doing that. We got to
Yep.
realize that if we got no protection on the car, ceramic snow is going to give a sheeting style where it comes off. Now, if you got Sparta on the car and you wash it ceramic snow, there's no sheeting, right?
Yeah. It's
It's
just,
very, very tight beads, very small little dots, and the water comes off really, really, like we're all used to. There's really
yeah,
fine little
like a
water
coating.
beads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a coating. Look, I have a little bit of a different way that I like to do things. I think you should have a mix, especially when you have a coated car. You should have a mix of three of our soaps. You should have foam wash, you should have cleanse, and you should have ceramic snow. Because there's going to be times where you don't see the car for a while. This is the reality for my family car, where the kids are in it. The kids have tons of activities. I'm not going to be able to get it into the shop and get it washed all the time and stay on it. So I like cleanse when that bite is needed. The other thing is cleanse is a nice thing to, literally cleanse the coating a little bit, give it a little bite, dig out some things that are kind of sticking around from not being able to get to it, or you do get to it and it's time to just kind of strip the surface a little bit of some things, and start with a new layer of slick or whatever the case may be. So, foam wash is your bedrock of all of this, right? It's a good, just every day, you get 2 weeks in between washes, rock some foam wash. For those times that you got, hey man, this is kind of built up for a while. I haven't been here in a while. I need a little bite. Maybe I went off road and enjoyed time. Maybe I, drove through a real bad storm and, there's a lot of mud on the road or dirt on the road and it's all over my car. That's a good place for that. I like the once a month, you know, once every 2 months, splashing some ceramic snow on mine and just kind of rocking it and adding a little protection, make me feel a little bit better. So that's the way I view those three soaps. But realize if you're like, well, I'm not going to have three soaps, then pick foam wash and cleanse and move on with your life. Neither one of those are going to be negative for your coating. A higher pH soap is not negative for your coating, like cleanse is. So you just pick what brought you, but I like having all three just for sometimes it's just the mood you're in, just something I want to throw on and just, hey, I feel like doing this today. So I like those options, but that's kind of the system that I have.
It almost you're right. Like almost sometimes it's, do I want to feel and have foam wash and have that feeling? And maybe I
Yeah.
like the bubblegum scent. Maybe I like the new scent and cleanse, or
Yeah.
well, maybe I'm just somebody that loves to spray a bunch of stuff all over. There are options. That is true. That's a good point of
Yeah.
why you should have all three is to
So
give yourself options
sometimes
for
I
the
just
day.
do what I want to do. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
I kind of want to use this soap today.
All right. So one of the options that we will have available, hopefully sometime, if not this year, it'll be next year, was a question that somebody asked about, and it probably will be next year. We haven't decided, but says when it comes to acid versus black rims or powder coated rims, is it a no matter what, or can you use acid on them if you're being careful out in the sun? Now, this question got a lot of comments. A lot of people voiced their opinions on, hey, I've diluted this. Acid is you. I don't think you can say, well, it's been a little education when I'm talking to you about acid, right? You would ask, hey, well, can't we, we just, what is wheel acid? And it's like, well, you got this base, but then you got different types of acids that go
Yes, you
into it,
do.
right? That hydrofluoric, for the one that we all used to remember, there's few. I don't know if people even have it anymore that sell it. I've talked to chemical companies and they're saying that they were in these meetings and that if you breathe, just take a breath of pure hydrofluoric, it's about going to kill you from eating you from the inside out. So
Yeah.
those companies are really changing what they put into their acids. Acid, wheel acid, when it comes down to now, because it's not just whatever one of those or two of those type of acids. We will
Yeah.
actually have multiple acids in ours, and we're excited about it because we think we see stuff like this and we go, We know there's people that love to just spray acid on a wheel. Of course, it's a no-no on powder coated and blacks, right? But
No, it's
is
not.
it?
It's not a no-no. Yeah, it's
You
not a
said
no-no.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is it because you said no? It can be done, and that's what I wanted to get into.
Yeah. So, one of the things is that acid got a really bad rap, and really because of health reasons and huge companies. We'll say it here. I mean, think of the companies like McGuire's. I mean, they started having real legal issues with some of this acid. There's legal issues. I mean, legal issues in their building, legal issues in a state, legal issues of somebody using it, maybe getting sick or it getting spilled at a UPS or FedEx depot. There are legal issues to deal with this stuff. Okay, the way that it used to be. And then everybody talked about the dangers. We all talked about the horror stories. Dale Adrofsky was joking with me because I said acid's technically safe on all finishes. Don't use it on raw aluminum. Okay, I don't think most of you are working on that. But if you need to etch up some raw aluminum, there's nothing better than some acid to get you going for the polishing step. So technically, you can people use acid to etch up some aluminum to get it ready to polish. But I'll say this: anything you spray on your car is technically can be made safe as long as you never let it dry or it's not sprayed on a scorching hot surface. Right? I mean, technically, acids were never dangerous to wheels. It was the manner in which you use the acid that made it dangerous. So I think one of the things people have to realize when I say black powder coated wheels, everybody's thinking of the Toyotas and the horrible things that they have with their black wheels. The new Bronco black wheels can get pretty grimy. If it's in a bay and it's cool and it didn't just drive into the bay, and acid can sit there and not dry out for a minute or two, then acid is not a dangerous thing. If you want to make acid more safe, you wet the wheel down, you cool the wheel down, you make it so it doesn't even have a chance to dry out. It's not a dangerous thing. And so everybody knows, I mean, kind of what I'm telling Marty is, the more that I do some stuff here at the shop, I really want an acid for one reason, because it is nice on some caked on, really troublesome wheels to just go ahead and spray it on, let it sit, rinse it off. And yeah, maybe I got to go touch the wheel up, but I want it to be a little bit of a no touch solution to kind of help me break through some of the grime. I just think it's gotten a bad rap. People have talked about it pretty crazy. And they didn't tell the full story behind it, which is the reason it was being discontinued was legal reasons inside of people's buildings that were manufacturing it, not so much because it was dangerous on a set of wheels. I don't think that was ever true.
No. And, big reason when we talked about Fuego when we first came out with it was the decontamination, how you could use it on it. But you want to safely clean any wheel.
Yes.
Fuego does a really great job. It's slower. I'll go and say that it's slower than I don't know. I wouldn't spray acid and just let it sit the way I let Fuego sit. But those questions inside the group and where people really get down to it, I think there's a lot of people that still use wheel acid. They don't talk about it publicly, but they still love the same idea. Like, can I just go spray something on a wheel, never have to really scrub it and do anything, and rinse it back off and it's clean? Oh, we all love that, but let's just all take a moment to go realize that you're running a risk.
Yes.
Anytime you want something no touch, if we decide to come back to discuss the pre-wash or a pre-soak or a no touch type wash, there's risk. Like,
Yeah, no,
you
when
got to
we've talked
trade.
about, yeah, we've talked about there's this movement towards the no touch wash, right? How do I break down a bunch of stuff with a no touch wash, which is fantastic. But the way it was being discussed by certain content creators was like, well, this one's been formulated special and it's not going to hurt anything. And then all of a sudden you saw in the Facebook groups like, hey, I tried this and it burnt my trim. It's like, yeah, there's a trade-off, right? To get no touch and get high alkaline or get very low acidic type of washes, there's a danger. Okay. That doesn't mean it's dangerous. That means there's a danger. You got to watch what you're doing. You got to make sure you know what you're doing. You got to take a little precaution. You can't let it dry. Maybe you got to stay on top of it more. You're used to spraying foam on, walking to your bucket and goofing around in your garage or in your shop. Well, I get a high alkaline pre-soak. there's no goofing around, right? That danger is there. It's not dangerous. It just means there's a little more danger than spraying a pH neutral Fuego or a pH neutral soap on my paint, right? And that's where people get very confused because there is a gray area and people take danger as dangerous. It's just you got to be pay attention a little bit more. You can't set it and forget it. You can't make a mistake because that mistake is going to cost damage. That is what danger is. It's not inherent. Acids aren't inherently dangerous. There's just a danger when using them.
The second, I think, when you think of black powder coated or, like my rock stars, the next thing you got to worry about is the amount of scrubbing that you do, or
Yes.
not having proper lubrication. This heavily we talked about when we talked about Fuego. And speaking of YouTube videos, you go back to some of those. It is about part of Fuego. What's so great about it is you can take a brush and it's not like you're scratching the whole time. There's some of those cleaners, it's like you don't feel anything in between the brush, and
Yep.
and the wheel, and you're like, wow. But with
Yeah,
Fuego,
especially
you
when you're
get
talking
some
about
good lubrication.
when you're talking about gloss black. You're talking about some of those gloss black Range Rover, gloss black on a Mercedes. Like you need lubrication. And again, you can use acid. You can use a lot of different things. You can use TRX alone. You don't need to use Fuego if it's well maintained, or you just don't want to carry Fuego around. You can use TRX, but you're exactly right. The questions you should be asking sometimes never get asked. Saving on a wheel cleaner and then scratching up the wheel because there's no lubrication in your wheel cleaner, you just defeated the point of what you were doing, right? But that never gets talked about. I saw a crazy post on Rinseless. Again, one of the subjects that just, for whatever reason, to me kind of blows my mind. And somebody's like, I use this one Rinseless and the dirt went to the bottom. And then I use this other Rinseless and there's dirt floating around. And I'm like, there's always been dirt floating around. Even with the one you're talking about, which I used for 5 or 6 years in my business, there was always dirt floating around if you put a dirty rag inside there. You didn't get some kind of magic that made everything float to the bottom, which is why we've been advocates of, how about you don't take the dirty rag or the dirty sponge and put it back in the bucket? You want to have zero dirt? Let's have zero dirt. But, we get in these subjects where people just kind of, I don't know, sometimes don't ask the right questions, don't look for the right solution, and it's fun to talk about.
It is fun to talk about, and we'll close with Sean's post. It was just one of the funnest things that we get to see, and it's always great. It looked like Sean was at a really cool event as a distributor, put products out there. That looked like a really fun time.
Well,
It seemed like
I thought the coolest part of that was Sean said, "Look, I wouldn't have been allowed in this event unless I was a vendor." And I wouldn't have been able to be a part of this. I think that's, again, it's in his community. It's near him. It's something that his customers or future customers are probably going to, people he wants to network with. For all you shops out there, man, some of these events that you want to get into, the easiest way to get in there and start networking is to actually be a vendor of a product like hyperCLEAN. I thought it was really cool.
yeah, it was cool. And so anybody that's looking at, stepping up that into their game, leveling up in a sense what they want to do to offer out to their community, to people there in their area, it is an avenue. Sean, you're right. It's explicit. The only way he was allowed into that event, which is awesome. So,
Yeah.
Sean, we love seeing those posts, man. Keep going out and killing it. And everybody else that's out there. Summer, we don't have as many in the summer, the events and stuff. It gets too hot here, right? Like, the old people don't like it too much. Our heat's
Yeah,
different than your
no.
heat, Nick.
Yeah. You don't have heat like we have heat.
But around here, the fall starts picking up more. It was great to see Sean out there and everybody else that's a hyperCLEAN distributor out at the events. It's fun to see. So, all right, we'll see everybody next week.
See you guys.